It's a pleasure to be here today with all of you. This session will be focusing on the K-12 institutes that we've been hearing about this morning. And what I'd like to do really quickly is start off a little bit about my own experience before I share the floor with 5 other teachers who are here today or who have been through the fellowship. I'd like us to quickly think back to January 2005, 21 years ago, and we were having a war on terror. There were attacks in the Middle East. There were attacks on the press, immigration movements, immigration walkouts, attacks on LGBTQ people. So in some ways, very familiar to the things that we're going through right now. I was a high school English teacher at the time. I was teaching high school juniors and seniors, and I felt extremely disempowered. I was feeling like my students have such racist beliefs that they're bringing to the classroom. They're expressing so much distrust of Muslims. They're thinking that violence is the only answer. What do I do as a teacher? And so back in those days, we actually had mailboxes, and we got flyers that were sent to us. And I remember seeing a flyer in my mailbox from the Ahimsa Center for an institute for 2 weeks to come to Cal Poly and learn about nonviolence. I remember thinking, like, this is it. This is what I need to do. This was the right thing at the right time. And so I spent 2 weeks in the summer of 2005 here at Cal Poly with a group of other educators, including some who became lifelong friends. And we studied nonviolence together. We came every day to campus for 2 weeks and really connected around how do we bring nonviolence into our curriculum? How do we bring nonviolence into our pedagogy? But then we began to also think about, well, how do we bring nonviolence into the lives of our students? What do they need? So I can think about what I think they need, but how do I actually listen to my students to find out what they need? But then we also came to the realization, how do I bring nonviolence into my own life? Because what we realized is that we could not do the work of nonviolence in our classrooms unless we lived it in our own lives. We had to live that change, be that change, embody it in ourselves. And I think that has been really the legacy of the Nonviolence Institutes, is that teachers get to come here and live nonviolence, be treated with love and kindness, be uplifted, and that allows them to go back and do some of that work in their own classrooms, in their own schools, in their own communities. So following 2005, I had the gift of being able to be a facilitator at the subsequent institutes. Thank you, Tara, for that opportunity. It changed my life. I got to work with 200 other teachers over the times that we did those institutes in 2005, 7, 9, 11, and 13, and 15. And I got to be a facilitator, but I also lived on campus. It was a residential institute. I lived in the dorms with these teachers who had come from all over the country to be together. And some called it like nonviolence camp or Gandhi camp, you know. But it was wonderful to live together, to dream together, to imagine better presents and better futures, and to find the ways to make nonviolence live in the hearts of our students and our colleagues. And so today what we'll do is we'll hear from 5 other fellows who have taken this journey and brought that into their own work. And so I'm gonna give them the floor. Each first we'll have Donna Hill, who will come up, and then I will move the conversation forward before we end and open it up to our next presenter. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll first bring Donna Hill to the floor.
I think like everybody here, I feel so grateful today to the Ahimsa Center and Dr. Tata Sethia. Thinking about all the years as I was in that very first institute on nonviolence and social change for K-12 teachers. So since then, I thought about how could I summarize all my experiences, and I came up with 3 areas: knowledge, community, and empowerment. The knowledge I gained in that first institute introduced me to new realities about nonviolence. According to the book and film that we read and watched, A Force More Powerful, There were examples globally of nonviolent revolutions that successfully changed oppressive systems. And that surprised me because I had only heard of violent revolutions, right? I also was introduced to details in Mahatma Gandhi's life and his nonviolent strategies in South Africa dealing with apartheid, and then in India expelling British colonialism. It was the beginning of my understanding about the true nature of nonviolent life committed to the well-being of self, which I didn't include before, and all living beings as well, and also confronting oppression with love and courage. Wow, what a concept, right? Bringing that forward, I have participated in the No Kings rallies and marches, and most importantly, I believe in their power. In terms of community, I am grateful I was able to attend the Ahimsa Center activities. I especially enjoyed the summer conferences that occurred every other year with internationally renowned speakers who specialized in areas that addressed the themes presented at each conference. What I most benefited from, though, was that Dr. Sethia made time, as today, for question and answer, where I often learned as much from the audience as I did from the speakers. There was time for audience members and speakers to mingle and exchange ideas at meals, and teachers K through 12 grades were always included and given equal value as those speakers. Our contributions were respected and encouraged, as evident today. Finally, in terms of empowerment, there has never been a better mentor than Dr. Sethia. As everything she accomplished with the Ahimsa Center was always superior, just top quality. For those of us women teachers involved year to year, Dr. Sethia demonstrated how to live to our nonviolent beliefs, how to respect all human life, and how to be confident and strong. Today, we are living in times that test our allegiance to Mahatma Gandhi's Satyagraha. He taught us how to go within, practice self-discipline, and develop moral strength. That's a big lesson, as so many Americans now are stressing over external events without doing the internal work to empower themselves to meet the challenges of today's world. We had Ahimsa Center and Dr. Sethia to guide us. Thank you.
My name is Vikas Shrivastava. I'm a 2007 Ahimsa Fellow, and I'm going to attempt in the next 5 minutes to summarize one of the most significant experiences of my life over the last 10 years. That's about 2 years per minute. I'm not a fast speaker, but I'll try to say everything. I've learned two things presenting at the conferences with the Ahimsa Institute. One is never plan your presentation until like 5 minutes before you present, because everyone's gonna say everything that you thought you wanted to say. And you're gonna learn so much, you're probably gonna change everything anyways. And the other thing is, there's very little new information that I could probably bring to this community. So instead, I'll just try to touch upon everything that I've heard so far. I'm just going to go through my story because, and try not to get emotional, but I'm going to go through my story. The themes that I feel I want to emphasize in this story is the journey of going from an ideal to a reality, going from a strategy to a lifestyle, and going from a principle to a paradigm, right? So from the ideal to the reality, strategy to lifestyle, and a principle to a paradigm. I feel I resonate with everyone, and what I see here is that there's 4 aspects, I will call them 4 directions of the journey for me. One is the internal commitment. So we had to have some type of an internal commitment to even apply to the fellowship, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't even resonate with us. So we had, somewhere inside of us, we had a seed. Some of us maybe more than others, some less than others. And then we show up and we're surrounded by 40 revolutionary educators and this team of coaches and mentors and all this information and data and collaboration. And so now this internal commitment and understanding starts to expand outward, and that's the power of community. And through that, we develop curriculum. So then we take this power of community, and the circle goes, right? So the first circle is us, our personal commitment, then the community is the next circle, and then we go the next circle out, which is now we take it into our classrooms and into the curriculum, and we start creating impact. So what only existed in me now went out and now hits the classroom. And in hitting the classroom, it might hit other teachers, it might hit other administrators, and so it starts to go out. And then now in this more recent part of my life, I've gone beyond curriculum to really addressing the culture of violence and really supporting a culture of nonviolence. So I just want to quickly give you the timeline, because I think my sole purpose up here is to really continue the work, continue the legacy of my mentor, my guru, Tara, Nirmal, and everyone here, Christian, all the folks who supported it, all the funders, to continue the work. So I want to tell you my timeline. So at Harvard, I did my master's in educational design. I'm going to talk as fast as possible. Well, we've only got a minute left. This is like every presentation I've ever given here. Forget the timeline. All I want to talk about is my work now. I call it coherence by design, and it takes these concepts and it puts it in the 4 directions. The gift of the 4 directions is that gives us holistic perspective. It's not one direction over the other. And we often get caught in one or the other domains. There's 4 domains. We have the personal, the social, the community, and the institutional. We've talked about our personal stuff. We talk about the social and the community resonance. We get cultural resonance in the classrooms. But change, real change, is top down. It's top down. And we can commend all the teachers we want, but if they're institutional leaders in the room, they can't do the change. You have to change it from the top down. And so now the next move is to really bring in the leaders of the schools and the leaders of the organizations, to create a true culture, because racism isn't going to change until we change the institutions. My personal ideas, not going to change it. My social sphere is not going to change it. The culture I create in my family is not going to change it. It's all a part of it. So we have to have all 4 pieces. We have to have the personal, we have to have the social, the cultural, and the institutional. And that's what happened here, because we are in an institution. We got college credits, right? This was institutional change. And so that's what I'd like to see. And then I'm just going to say that moving forward, we all know that the body is impermanent. We've been, in our tradition, in our Hindu tradition, Buddhist tradition, Jain tradition, the body is impermanent, the body changes, but the soul is everlasting. And Tara brought in the soul of Ahimsa here. The soul is not going anywhere, just the body is changing. So it's up to us to hold the soul. The body's going to keep changing, and we'll change with the body. That was temporary anyways. So anyways, Tara, I love you. Nirmal, I love you too. Christian, and all the funders that I have seen since 2007. I see so many familiar faces. I love you all. I thank you all. And I look forward to continuing the legacy. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Peggy Sia, a fifth grade teacher at Palm Elementary School. I am here today as a daughter of Chinese immigrants who came to California with dreams of a better life from the effects of civil war and poverty. I am a proud first-generation Chinese American who is the first in her family to graduate from university. If you could lend me your ears for a moment, I will begin by telling a story. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived in a small house with her mother and father and two younger siblings in a modest and unassuming city, growing quickly into an ethnic enclave. An aftermath of the Vietnam War. Her mother always brushed her hair into two curly pigtails in spite of her tears and anguish as a comb cruelly scraped and snapped through the tangles and knots. Her mother would say in Cantonese, "You must look respectable," as she squirmed under the spiny nemesis called the brush. She did not often see her father, for he was a cook who worked in the hot kitchen of some nameless Chinese restaurant. Every single day, rain or shine. Her mother, who did not know the Western ways, reminded her every day to listen and obey. She learned very early on to make herself small and quiet so that problems would not look for her, and if they did, she could shrink so as to weather any storm. After all, she remembered she was to listen and obey. So as she went to school every year, her teachers would compliment her at conferences that she was a good student who was very respectful and smart. Her mother was proud. It is how they assimilated. America is the place where you can be someone no matter where you come from. Just make sure to listen and obey. You will be better than me. You will have an education and live a good life. The little girl's mother reminded her of that every day, and so she did, small and quiet. However, her ancestors had a different goal in mind. She could not be quiet and small for the rest of her life. That was not her destiny. It was already written that she would be much more. She met many different people who became lessons, guides, mentors, and angels. These special people came and went in her life, but always left her with a gift. Each little gift seemed minor and inconsequential to the outsider, and maybe at one point even to the little girl. "You possess such strength. I see it in you," someone would offer. The little girl, becoming a young woman, would shrink and quietly utter a polite thank you. "That person is very kind," she would muse. Then she would go on into the world, forgetting what it really meant. Quietly, she walked through life, doing her best to obey, thinking that by doing so, she was the goodest, kindest person in the world. But again, the ancestor said, "No, you are more." The little girl, who was now a woman, became a mother and a teacher. Over time, she found that she could not sit quietly and obey. Her children at home and at school looked to her for help and for guidance. She found that she had to be a voice, their voice, for they were still too young to speak for themselves. And then suddenly she realized that all of the lessons, mentors, and angels came together and became her talisman to stand up and speak. This story was shared one late evening at a district board meeting when, for the first time, I was not only compelled to, but also called to represent the voices of families and students. That night might possibly not have happened if it were not for one serendipitous email I happened to click into during an aimless scrolling and deleting of work emails many, many years ago. In the unlit classroom, I lackadaisically read the contents, unknowingly captivated as my finger clicked to open the attachment of its own accord. The beginnings of my journey into Ahimsa became quite low-key chill, as my students would say. The purpose of the Institute comprised partly as an outreach and collaboration with teachers within the realm of K through 12. Entering the first day reception, as Dr. Satya has always been the greatest of hosts and attentive in every manner, I expected and was ready for professional development in an area of interest, social justice. Looking back, I see that was the awakening of something within me I had not previously known. That year, we went through the journey of nonviolence with Gandhi and King. From the start, I was mesmerized. I recall feverishly taking in every word and writing down every word. I was in a room full of intellects, but at the same time, people who I vibed with. I felt a knowing and closeness with perfect strangers. Was it because of the intimate but exquisite conference room with a stunning view of the valley, or perhaps the communal meals pre-planned by our dear professor? Possibly, but it was moreover the plethora of knowledge and love that I felt in the room. It was Ahimsa. It was Satyagraha. The Ahimsa Institute did not teach the ideas, but modeled and imbued in it every breath of the Institute. I had never been so enamored by history and moved by its events. Dr. Fred Luskin of the Stanford University Forgiveness Projects once referenced a beautiful Gandhian quote: "If you want something really important to be done, you must not merely satisfy the intellect, but move the heart." Since then, at every turn, a path has unfolded before me. Not only has it presented itself in my professional life, so that wholeheartedly I practice what the Dalai Lama has said, of educating not only the mind, but the heart. You threw me off. Hold on. I'm almost done. It has also deeply permeated into the very being that I am and am becoming. I have strived and put forth effort to live a life of nonviolence. I am within that great oceanic circle. By chance, perhaps by destiny, the Ahimsa Institute cast a pebble within my orbit. What I thought was a script of life I had to follow became undone. Leading with and through Ahimsa has brought so many adventures and people into my life. Within this oceanic circle, I hope to give as much as I have received. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Laura Hirschfield. I had the great pleasure of being an Ahimsa Fellow for the 2011 cohort. I can't say enough for the deep and profound gratitude I have, not just for Dr. Satya, for everybody in this room, for this community, for the way this experience and group just dramatically altered the entire course of my life. Personally, professionally, I'm an entire different human because of that experience 15 years ago. So this is a little bit of a story about how Dr. Satya and this center and my story and so many of ours, I think, are embodied in this logo. We might be all getting tattoos if anybody wants to go after, so I'll leave that. So my story, I became a teacher because talking about the world and human behavior and our connection with each other felt meaningful. And doing it through the lens of literature and through writing was my own entryway into it. And so that was kind of the only path that I saw for myself, so I became a teacher. But I was largely on that journey on my own, a little bit unanchored, and we were just critically thinking and talking together. I knew, and we were constantly thinking about how the world was unjust, but what do we do about it? I don't know. We talk about it and we think about it. And then in 2011, a colleague of mine who was an Ahimsa Fellow years before mentioned to me, she shared the flyer, and she's like, Laura, I think this will resonate with you. And this is a colleague who I deeply admired. She was very much what we all called like a social justice warrior. I had no background in that. I had really barely heard of Gandhi. I just didn't have any of this vocabulary, but she's like, you'll like it, just trust me. And I have this vivid memory of day one, the slide deck. I can picture like the comics that Dr. Satya used, And my thought was like, how do we not all learn this from day one? I felt cheated, right? I felt like, how do we not learn about this philosophy? Yeah, that's something both through, what I'd say, things that I had, like my entire life, everything I'd learned about, read about, experienced, said that war and violence does not work, but in the absence of another option, we were just kind of lost, right? See someone say, yeah, it was just, what do we do? I returned from the fellowship to the classroom, using the curriculum and constantly, and I was Googling and reading and how do I learn more? And so much of what I was reading was, if you want to learn more, you have to practice it. And I was like, okay, how do I practice it? What does this mean? What does this look like? And I had the fortune to be connected to the International School for Jain Studies. And they generously offered, it was just for me to come to India to study Ahimsa. And I was like, well, if we would do this, I was like, we had continued conversations. I was like, it's not just about studying Ahimsa. I want to learn more about like our experiential learning, practical applications, how does this apply to our lives, to students, et cetera. And they said, sure, come, we'll do it. And I was like, all right, well, if we could do this for me, could we do this for more? Like for teachers? They were like, do teachers want this? And a year after my fellowship, a dozen teachers and I, most of whom were Ahimsa Center fellows, went to India, spent 3 weeks learning about Ahimsa, learning what does Ahimsa look like in schools, learning it together, creating community. I spent the next 7 summers returning to India, and over 150 teachers to date have gone to India for that learning, connection, and community. Right, and it just continues, right? So like, fast forward, sure, low on time, I'm looking at it, see it somewhere. In 2014, so I was in Boston. In 2014, I moved to Los Angeles. And I moved out of public education into the nonprofit world. I worked for a network of nonprofits called Youth Build. And Youth Build worked in communities that are most impacted, I would say, by social and economic justice, young people who did not complete high school. That was the population we were working with. Restorative justice became the epicenter of everything that I did. Our curriculum, the way we talk to each other. We spent the first month of school building relationships, right? Rebuilding, building connections so we can work together. Moved from classroom teacher to program director, which brought me to where I am now at another nonprofit. I'm in workforce development at Grid Alternatives, helping develop people who are traditionally excluded from so Grid Alternatives, it's a nonprofit renewable energy organization. It does solar installations in communities that traditionally don't have access to them, but also there's an entire economy in renewable energy. So we have a workforce development department that I have the privilege of working with, where we develop people and give them the technical and soft skills needed to enter that economy, but not just the technical skills, but also the skills to promote equity. I get to teach restorative justice, nonviolent communication, Kingian nonviolence. So people are not only starting careers in solar, renewable energy, et cetera, or maybe they go another path, but they have skills to make things a little bit different. And the big project now is working with human resources and HR, so it's a little more restorative and a little less punitive, right? So it's just where this experience started and where it can go. Like I said, I can't say enough, this altered the course of my entire life, and not just me, but think about all the students who were in the classroom, and now the people who are at the organization I'm at now, who maybe would have been put on a traditional PIP and fired, who now have been collaborated with to do some work to grow and heal, and the harm that has been reduced because of what started here. The program in India still exists. Thankfully, I think when we talk about what's next, we need continued wisdom, passion, and expertise to grow that program. Yes, so ending with just a thank you for everybody in this room. We're all a part of this logo. I think for everyone, just bittersweet, the event that brought us here today. But yeah, thank you. I cannot say enough, Dr. Sathya. Right, thank you. Yeah, and not just for me, but for all the hundreds of people who've benefited from this experience 15 years ago from little old me. Thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Sethia, distinguished guests. I teach in the heart of the Silicon Valley, and I'm the co-creator of a special after-school group called the Change Agents. Now I want to take you back in time to 2011. I applied for a special summer fellowship program at the Ahimsa Center, which I knew nothing about, but I was accepted. Little did I know that becoming part of the Ahimsa Center would be for me a call to action, that I would dedicate my life to nonviolence and service. Little did I know this would be a call that I would continue to answer to the present day. At the Institute, I listened to Dr. Sathia's fine lectures and came to understand the power of nonviolence as a force for enduring good. Studying Mohandas Gandhi firsthand, I understood that when he encountered cruelty, rather than responding with fight or flight, he would choose a path of study, community service, and truth-telling. At the Institute, thanks to Dr. Sethia's fine planning, there were many discussions with other teachers, and teachers across our country struggled with issues, their students, with bullying, students experiencing an extreme lack of belonging, and the schools having little tools to really help and nurture their students. I returned back to my school at the conclusion of the Institute, very much burning to share with my fellow teachers what I had learned. And I worked hard to create a captivating presentation so that my colleagues might begin to teach these lessons that I was so excited about and teach about Gandhi and other exemplars. Sadly, they just couldn't. The challenge of state standards and other issues meant that I would continue, I would teach about Gandhi and Chavez, and we would write a book in our class every year, but I couldn't. The nonviolent teachings Dr. Sathia had introduced me to went largely unnoticed. But then, 7 years later, my chance to promote nonviolence social action bubbled to the surface again. The country was in political turmoil due to the election of Trump, and I shared feelings of shock and despair with my neighbor. We wondered how we might help our students develop into the morally conscious leaders or change agents of tomorrow. We agreed as teachers we had a unique opportunity, and so we would plan an after-school group. The students would be the ones to choose social welfare programs to better their school and perhaps community. We would be the ones to facilitate, but the important piece was that they would be the deciders of the project and they would determine the course of the action. In the first year, the students showed such passion for these projects. They chose 3 projects. We were going to choose just one. But due to their enthusiasm, we moved forward with all 3. For example, one such project was called Buddy Benches. And so the change agents painted benches in the kindergarten yard. So the idea was that if a student did not have a friend to play with, they could come and join and find somebody on this bench, and change agents would be there to guide them as well. Another such project called Art by the Trees was to promote STEM earth-friendly activities. And a third, Kindness Week, a week of activities to promote kindness in the entire school. Now, our program has reached out to the community as well. Years later, we have taken on projects, a project making pet toys for the Humane Society. And in this project, other students in our school community created the pet toys as well. In 2019, I was honored to write the story of the change agents, being part of the anthology Teachers Teaching Nonviolence, the great work of Christian Bracchio and Tanita Dodson. Just a tiny bit more. I am saddened that the Ahimsa Center will close, but my commitment to action remains steadfast. Like ripples in the water caused by Dr. Sathya, I started my change agent group. Then a parent of my group decided to start her own community-based change agent group. Now I set my sights on the next larger ripple of nonviolent action. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
What a wonderful group of presenters. And I want to also just acknowledge that we heard from Johnny earlier, but we have two other fellows in the room, Patricia and Susanna. I see you in the back, an OG 2005 fellow. So I just want to congratulate all the fellows who are here and thank them for their comments. And just to say that one of the things that I have found working at Cal State Long Beach, working with teachers who are currently in K-12 schools, is that they need nonviolence right now in such a huge way. And it's because of them talking to me about that that I felt that I had to come back to Dr. Sathya and say, let's keep doing this work. Let's find a way to do this again. So we're looking forward to continuing that work at Long Beach. We're planning a workshop with K-12 teachers this summer. And we hope that you'll continue to help us recruit people for it, bring people into this work, find ways to help K-12 teachers connect with one another and connect to the work of nonviolence and Ahimsa. So thank you very much. And I'll pass the floor on now, I believe, to Tara again.